We are going to have to be turning people away. There will be people who are going hungry without food in our city.
How many military families from Gagetown, active people serving, are using your food bank?
About 40 to 50 families per month are using our food bank.
With the cost of living continuing to price average people out, we're witnessing one of the most trying times in recent history. More and more people are becoming dependent on various forms of assistance just for survival. For instance, food. Food has continually gotten more expensive and is often the first thing people notice when inflation is rising. I used to work at Tim Hortons back in high school, and I often had boomers complain to me when the cost of a coffee went up 5 cents. I didn't get it at the time. I do now. The cost of food has skyrocketed in the last few years, and I even find myself at 23 making the same complaints about food prices that the boomers did when I worked at Tim Hortons. The sad thing is that a lot of people are being priced out of food, and they're turning to food banks in part or in full to feed themselves and their family. And this is a trend we're seeing all across the country. To get an idea of how bad the situation has become, let's start by listening to this Ottawa-based food bank to begin to build the picture of the crisis that we face today.
Yeah, as you mentioned, we've seen a 90% increase in the number of visits to the 98 organizations we work with since 2019, and a 13% increase over the last year. We're expecting another 15% increase in 2025. And so we're stretching our dollar as much as we can, but we just know it's not going to be enough to meet the current need, let alone the need that we're expecting in the next 12 months.
Did you catch that? A 90% increase since 2019, and they're expecting annual growth around 13 to 15% every year. That is horrible.
We declared an emergency because we recognize that we are going to have to be turning people away. There will be people who are going hungry without food in our city. So we were calling on all levels of government to make policy changes that will impact people's ability to afford food. Unfortunately, we haven't seen any traction, and we know that with a federal election coming up, it's going to be very challenging to get the governments to play the role that they need to play.
Calling for a state of emergency because people are going to go hungry? What has this country turned into? Honestly, man. And to have to turn people away because you don't have enough food? That's sad, man. And she's right. I mean, this is an election year. This is also an election year for Ontario. All these politicians are focused on right now is like this whole trade war going on with the US. And so many government resources and focus and attention is on that and not on this. The fact that people are literally going hungry. Man, it's so messed up. We used to get ads on TV to like feed an African child, but soon I think we're gonna get ads to feed our own citizens. Like, is that where we're headed? Is that the direction we're going?
We know the cost of living in cities like Ottawa and right across the country have grown exponentially, and people can't afford to live in a city like ours. And the other critical piece is that about 40% of the people who access a food bank in Ottawa are on some form of social assistance, and those rates have not kept pace at all with the cost of living. So more and more people are falling far below the poverty line and just not able to make ends meet. But we're also seeing people who are employed, seniors, and unfortunately 37% are children.
Whoa. Run that back.
And unfortunately 37% are children.
You mean to tell me that of the people who require assistance for food, 37% of them in Ottawa are children? First of all, that's crazy. Second of all, the fact that we're seeing elders requiring assistance from food banks is also crazy. I know it seems crazy for people my age to hear this, but yes, there's a bunch of people who are in their retirement age that can't afford to retire, basically. Not every boomer is filthy stinking rich. And I think that's a trend we're gonna see continuously moving forward, is that each generation is gonna have less and less money saved away for retirement.
You know, more people who are employed means that the cost of living is just so high that even if you're working 1, 2, 3 jobs, you cannot make it work in a city like ours and in many cities in Ontario. This is an impossible situation, not only for the Ottawa Food Bank, but for the agencies we work with and the people who rely on food banks. We know people rely on food banks for their regular food and that we play a large part in this community. These are going to be very challenging times ahead, but we are hoping people will continue to support not only the Ottawa Food Bank, but their local food bank. We need it more now than ever before.
This just goes to show how bad the cost of living crisis is really getting when people who are employed, who have multiple jobs, are are dependent on food banks for survival, in part or in full. Doesn't matter. And this is also a trend that we're probably going to continue to see, is people who are employed, who are working and productive in the economy, are just unable to live a standard basic life.
The donations have really started to level off, but unfortunately we need more than we needed last year, so we're falling behind. Food donations are still fairly strong, but we're worried what the next month and will mean for us. We rely 98% on the community. We don't receive provincial or federal funding. So as our donors are feeling the economic pinch, we're going to continue to feel that as well.
98% of their supply is donation driven. Only 2% is federally subsidized. And what she says is extremely true. For people who can afford to donate, they're also feeling the same pinch. Groceries are going up for everybody. And so the amount that people can afford to donate will go down over time, which means less food being donated, which means less people that can survive off the food bank. It's just a horrible cycle that's happening right now.
Okay, hi everybody. Absolutely shocked at what I have just learned here in Oromocto Food Bank in New Brunswick. So Oromocto is also in Gagetown. So for those of you who don't know, CFB Gagetown is the largest military base in Canada. A lot of military families, a lot of people come here and train. So this food bank serves around 600 families.
450.
450.
Every month.
450 families every month. Families or people?
Families.
Families. And Jane, who oversees the food bank here, who's a rock star, just told me something that I can't even wrap my head around. And I hope any national media, all media should be covering this. How many military families from Gagetown, active people serving, are using your food bank?
About 40 to 50 families per month are using our food bank that are military members.
That floored me.
Yeah.
And when have you seen that number happen? Like, you've been here for how many years?
I've been here for 13 years, and that number's kind of gone up and up and up over the last 4 years. Yeah. Since the pandemic, you know, it was reflective of that in the beginning, and now it just maintains. Yeah.
These are not vets. These are not retirees. These are active military personnel that require consistent aid from the local food banks. I don't even know what to say. How does that even work? Like, if this doesn't show you how bad things have actually gotten, I don't know what does. This is crazy. This is crazy to me. I can't believe it, to be honest with you.
Everything she took me through here, the students she's helping, the kids she's feeding in schools, double. Everything's double.
Everything's double. Yeah.
Everything is double.
Yep.
It's very real. This is the thing that is blowing my mind the most. So please take this and think about it. But if you have Atlantic Canada, where it is such a community-minded place, where everybody helps their neighbor, right? Hey, Jane, do you got sugar?
Yeah. I'm sorry, I don't.
And Atlantic Canadians' reliance on food banks has doubled.
Yes, it has.
You go through school being taught about the sacrifices, the honor, the pride of the Canadian military and what they have achieved, what it's done for the country. We have days, ceremonies, events to remember these things, and yet the active military personnel that we have today are being treated like this, unable to afford food for their family. It infuriates me that grocery stores aren't forced to give their food to food banks. They just throw good food away. This is what I mean, like, these grocery chains throw away so much food, even like fast food restaurants and stuff. I understand there's rules around food safety and that kind of stuff. Food expiration is important for a reason, but like, let's be real between you and me right now, okay? Have you eaten something past expiration? Just be honest with me, please, just for the one time. Have you eaten a slice of bread past its expiration date? Because I have. I eat shit past its expiration all the time. I'm not talking like months past or a year past, but like a week, depending on what the item is. Who gives a shit, really? Obviously you can tell with like produce, like lettuce, tomatoes, that kind of stuff, just by like cutting into it or just literally looking at it, you can tell if it's good or not. And same with like bread. If there's mold on it, just throw the whole loaf away. There's a lot of good, edible, usable food that just gets thrown away all the time. And even if there was such a program where the government maybe subsidized a little bit of money to each food bank so that they could buy the expired goods from big grocery retailers at like a crazy discount, so that way the grocery retailers are still making some money, not a complete loss on the food, the grocery retailers might be more incentivized to do it. But yeah, I do agree. I think there should be some kind of government program that prevents some of the wasted food that we see every day. Look at this. Looks like a Taylor Swift concert's in town. Jokes aside though, it's crazy how long this line is for a food bank. It looks like it goes the entire block. And this is just one food bank. There's a bunch. When I see a line like this, I also wonder how many people don't really need to be in that line. There are always those that are there for freebies. Yeah, I mean, there are always going to be people that take advantage of every system. That's just how things are. And while doing research for this video, I found a bunch of people saying like, oh, how many people are showing up in Lamborghinis or in BMWs to the food bank, essentially implying that there's a bunch of people that don't actually need the help of a food bank. They can afford food, but they're just trying to save money. If you're gonna go use a food bank, you gotta realize who you're taking food away from. It's from people that actually need it, like desperately need it to survive and eat. But if you're going to the food bank because you can't afford your $1,000 a month car payment on your BMW, that's not right. You know, just get rid of the car.
So you were really trying to make this out like it was just some poor student having trouble with grocery bills, right? Like this video didn't go on talking about him and his roommate systematically taking turns pulling out of the food bank. Does this look like just normal amounts of groceries to you? Why don't we break down what he's got here? Have a look at this first picture. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tubs. 6 tubs. How will you check out the amount of cereal he's got? 6 boxes of cereal. My family of 5 kids when I was growing up would go through 1 box a week. Remember, him and his roommates take turns going to the food bank every week and taking as much as they possibly can. And he's promoting everyone to do this too. He's got a ton of ketchup packets for some reason. You look at the amount of eggs in the corner, that's 6 dozen eggs. Actually, let's go back to this picture. Look at all the canned goods that's in the corner there. He's literally got a tower of multiple canned goods. He's also got 6 boxes of crackers as well. That's just the crackers that you can count. If you look on the video, there's actually more crackers in the background. Now, I don't know if these tomatoes are for food banks or if he bought it. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's a ton of tomatoes. I sure hope he bought those because that is just ridiculous.
And whether this specific instance is true or not, this kind of stuff does happen. There are international students that do depend on food banks, and there's going to be people that take advantage of it. I mean, cycling between roommates, trying to grab as much food as you can, taken away from people that actually really need this stuff. I mean, who needs 6 tubs of yogurt like that? I don't think my family has ever run through a single tub of yogurt in less than a week. Like, this is genuinely an absurd amount of food for just 2 people. When you have food banks that are literally collapsing, that can't give enough food to all the people that actually need it, and then you have people like this that come in and swipe up a bunch of food. This is a recipe for disaster, man. I've heard that a ton of food banks have started to refuse service to international students, which is so unfair for those that really need it. Is it true that some international students need the help, need support from food banks just to survive on a weekly, monthly basis? Yes. If like 1% of international students are going to go abuse the system, they're going to ruin it for everybody else. And it's sad. It is sad. The majority gets screwed over by the minority, but this happens all the time. Rules only exist because someone pushed the limit. And it's unfortunate that some people get punished for stuff that they didn't even do, and they are worse off because of it. The unfortunate truth is that there's too many scumbags these days, and people think that there's no consequences. If you enjoyed this video and want to watch more of my content, then you should probably subscribe to the channel, and maybe, you know, leave a like while you're down there. And if you want to watch a video about why grocery prices will never come down in this country, click this video here.